it's a good idea to get this feathering thing together. It's not an old-fashioned idea. It's an old idea that still has value today.
This lesson is taken from one of John Riley's courses available for free at ArtOfDrumming.com. If you're looking for inspirational drum content created by some of today's greatest drummers, head over to our platform and sign up today.
In the early jazz bands, the drummer, of course, plays time, but he's not the only one playing the time in the band. And in the early jazz bands, the drummer's partner in the rhythm section was a tuba player. And the tuba player didn't have that much dexterity, so a lot of times the music had a 2 feel rather than a 4 feel. The 4 feel I was demonstrating on the ride cymbal. The 2 feel would be one, if you're in 4/4, thinking in 2, we would play 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the bass drum would marry with the tuba player playing in this way. Eventually, the tuba player was replaced by the string bass, and the bass player has much more dexterity, and so that 2 feel could change to a 4 feel, and so now we're really moving in a forward direction with momentum in the time. And when I play just the cymbal, that's a high-pitched metallic sound. But I want to try and marry that with a low-pitched woody sound of the acoustic bass. And so the bass drum is going to play quarter notes underneath the ride cymbal and try and marry the sound of the cymbal to the acoustic bass. And we refer to this as feathering the bass drum. So the idea is that it's almost like you're just touching the bass drum with a feather to give a little resonance and a little body and a little fatness to the beat, and to help this metallic sound marry with the sound of the acoustic bass. So by just drums alone, feathering would sound like this. And that sounds really simple, but actually it's difficult on 2 levels. It's difficult to play really good quarter notes with the bass drum, and it's difficult to play them softly. So the procedure to get control of this is first worry about the unison between the cymbal and the bass drum. So it's okay to practice this kind of feathering idea loud to make sure that this unison is really good. And so maybe I would practice it at this volume. And once that unison between the bass drum and ride cymbal feels very secure, the next part of the process is to make the stroke of the bass drum smaller so that that volume is reduced. And then it would sound like this. And with the bass drum underneath the cymbal, it has the effect of helping marry with the bass player, but also of making the sweet spot in each quarter note feel a little broader, so that it makes it easier for the other musicians to feel comfortable playing on top of this groove that we're creating. So let's demonstrate playing time on the cymbal, feathering the bass drum, along with a bass player. And maybe you'll notice that the bass player plays quarter notes, and occasionally he will add some skip notes to his pattern to give it a little dance, like the way we add skip notes in the cymbal. And in that context, the drummer can maybe vary where he puts the skip note too. So there's a little conversation between the bass player and the drummer in this skip note area. Now we're going to play over a form, a 12-measure structure, which will be the harmony of a blues. So if you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, up to 12, you'll hear this cycle, and we'll do it 2 times. And I'm going to play 4 measures of the cymbal with the feathering, and then 4 measures without the feathering. And see if you hear how the sound is richer when this very soft feathering is in there just to enhance the sound of the bass. If you listen to recordings of the really old guys like Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich and even Max Roach, a lot of times the bass drum is louder than what the level that I was just playing. And I used to think that they were playing the bass drum so loudly because of a lack of control. But I had the opportunity to ask Jim Chapin, who was definitely an old-timer, why those guys played the bass drum so loud. And he gave me an interesting answer. He said in the old days, band leaders didn't trust bass players. And he said if the drummer didn't have a strong foot, he wouldn't work. Now, of course, amplification and virtuosity of bass players has improved and tempos of music has gotten much faster. So the level of the volume of the feathering of the bass drum had to reduce to keep the balance within the band and so that the harmony that the bass player was playing could be heard. Now, many modern drummers are still feathering, even though it can be hard to hear on recordings. I would suggest you check out one recording of the great drummer Tony Williams playing with Miles Davis. There's a song called Dolores. And if you listen to this song with headphones on and take off one side during the saxophone solo and the piano solo, you hear only drums. And Tony is feathering the bass drum in this really modern context, and you can't tell that he's doing it when the whole band is there. But it really is important, and it adds a kind of foundation and richness to the groove and to the sound of the drums. So it's a good idea to get this feathering thing together. It's not an old-fashioned idea. It's an old idea that still has value today.